Good evening. Tonight, there is nowhere you need to be, nothing to finish, and nothing to solve. The day is over now, so settle into a comfortable position and allow yourself to relax. As the rain falls softly outside, let your breathing find its own gentle rhythm. There is no need to focus on anything, no need to remember anything, and no need to do anything at all. Tonight, all you need to do is listen. Together, we'll leave the noise of the day behind and step into a quieter place, a place filled with old books, soft light, and endless stories. Beyond these shelves, the world feels distant. The clocks tick more slowly here. The rain softens every sound beyond the windows. And for a little while, nothing is expected of you. Everything is calm here. Everything is still. Now, follow me through the sleeping aisles, past the shelves, and past the rows of forgotten stories, toward the reading table at the center of the library. Waiting beneath the glow of a single green lamp is tonight's book. Let's open it together. Tonight's book is Walking Ancient Greece Through the Eyes of Persephone, the Secret World of Eleusis. As we turn the first page, the library grows quieter still. The rain continues softly beyond the windows, and our journey into the hidden sanctuary of Persephone begins. The first page feels different. Not older, not heavier, just quieter, as if it has been waiting a very long time to be opened. Tonight, we are not walking beside an emperor. We are not following a famous philosopher, and we are not searching for a lost city. Instead, we are following a road that thousands of people walked, yet almost nobody ever described. For nearly 2,000 years, men, women, farmers, soldiers, merchants, and even Roman emperors traveled this same path. They arrived full of questions. They left strangely peaceful. But when someone asked what they had experienced, they almost always gave the same answer: nothing. Or rather, they said nothing at all. That silence was no accident. Ancient Greece loved stories. Greeks wrote about wars, about politics, about love, about terrible mistakes. They argued constantly. They recorded almost everything. Yet one of the most important religious ceremonies in their entire civilization remained almost completely secret. Not for years, not for generations, for centuries. Even today, historians still debate what truly happened there. The rain continues softly against the library windows. The lamps glow gently across endless shelves. Outside, the modern world continues without us. Inside, another page turns. It is early morning. A pale golden light touches the hills outside Athens. The city is already awake. Stone streets slowly fill with merchants. Fresh bread leaves the ovens. Potters prepare their wheels. Blacksmiths light their fires. Somewhere nearby, children laugh as they chase one another between narrow houses. It looks like an ordinary day. Yet, if you watched carefully, you would notice something unusual. Small groups of people are quietly leaving the city. None of them appear to be in a hurry. No carts loaded with goods, no soldiers marching, no officials shouting orders. Only travelers, walking west. You decide to follow them. Nobody asks your name. Nobody questions why you are there. One elderly woman smiles briefly as she adjusts the small basket hanging from her arm. A young man carries nothing except a simple walking staff. Another traveler gently holds a bundle wrapped in plain linen. Nobody explains where they are going. Some things you are expected to discover for yourself. The road beneath your feet has a name: the Sacred Way. 21 kilometers from Athens to a quiet town called Eleusis. Today it seems peaceful. Olive trees sway gently in the breeze. Wildflowers grow between pale stones. Cicadas fill the warm air with their endless song. Nothing about the landscape suggests that this road once attracted people from every corner of the Greek world. Yet it did, every year, again and again. Some walked for days before reaching Athens. Others crossed the sea first. Some were rich enough to own ships. Others arrived barefoot. Status meant very little here, because every traveler carried exactly the same question. What happens after death? No temple in Greece promised a clearer answer. At least, that is what people believed. That single hope changed everything. People risked long journeys, dangerous weather, bandits along forgotten roads. They came willingly, not because anyone forced them, but because rumors spread across the ancient world. People who entered the sanctuary returned without fearing death. Nobody explained why. They simply did. The strange part was that revealing the ceremony itself was forbidden. Not discouraged, forbidden. A person who publicly revealed the sacred rites could face trial. Some believed the punishment could even be death. Imagine that. Thousands witnessed the ceremony, yet generation after generation, the secret survived. Very few events in human history have remained silent for so long. As the road gently climbs another hill, the name behind the mystery finally appears: Persephone. Not the mighty Zeus, not wise Athena, not powerful Poseidon. Persephone, a young goddess whose story explained something every human being eventually faces: loss, separation, and the hope that darkness never lasts forever. According to the oldest stories, she had once been gathering flowers. Nothing extraordinary, nothing dramatic, just another peaceful morning. Until the earth opened. The ruler of the underworld emerged, and Persephone disappeared. The world above changed forever. Her mother, Demeter, searched endlessly. Fields stopped producing grain. Fruit trees no longer bloomed. The earth itself seemed to forget how to grow. The Greeks imagined an entire world suspended between life and death, all because one mother could not find her daughter. Eventually, a bargain was made. Persephone would return, but not completely. She had eaten a few pomegranate seeds beneath the earth, and that simple act bound her forever to two different worlds, one beneath the sunlight, one beneath the shadows. Each year, she would leave. Each year, she would return. And every spring, the earth would bloom once again. The road begins to change. The hills grow lower, and the scent of the sea slowly drifts inland. Somewhere ahead, beyond the olive groves and scattered fig trees, lies Eleusis, Not a city famous for armies, not a place filled with grand palaces. If you passed through without knowing its story, you might never guess that people once crossed an entire sea just to stand here. To Persephone, this place was something very different. It was where every journey home began. The morning sun climbs a little higher. Its light spreads across fields of barley that ripple gently in the breeze. Wildflowers bloom along the edges of the road. Bees wander lazily from blossom to blossom. Everything feels wonderfully ordinary. Perhaps that is what surprises you most. The most sacred place in Greece does not announce itself. It whispers. Walking beside Persephone, you begin to notice small things that others might overlook. The farmers pause for just a moment as they pass the sanctuary. An old woman quietly leaves a handful of fresh flowers beneath a simple stone. A young child reaches for his mother's hand without saying a word. No one has given an order. No priest stands nearby. Respect seems to rise naturally from the earth itself. To the people of Eleusis, she is never far away. When the first green shoots appear after winter, they think of her footsteps returning. When the wheat grows tall beneath the summer sun, they remember her mother's joy. And when the fields stand empty beneath gray skies, they quietly accept that Persephone has once again descended into the world below. Every harvest, every winter, every spring tells her story once again. As you continue through the town, the sanctuary slowly reveals itself. Its stone walls are strong, but not designed to impress. There are no towering gates covered in gold, no enormous statues greeting every visitor. Its beauty lies somewhere else, in silence, in simplicity, in the strange feeling that something important waits just beyond your sight. Persephone would have known these paths well, not because she ruled here, but because every stone carried the memory of her return. Imagine seeing these buildings not as ancient ruins, but as living places. Fresh white plaster catching the morning light, painted wooden doors standing open, the smell of burning olive wood drifting through the cool air, voices speaking softly between shaded courtyards. For a brief moment, the ancient world feels astonishingly close. Pilgrims continue arriving throughout the morning. Some have traveled for weeks. Their sandals are worn. Their cloaks carry the dust of distant roads. One family embraces relatives they have not seen since the previous year. An elderly man smiles quietly as he kneels to touch the earth before entering the sacred grounds. Nearby, a young woman closes her eyes for just a moment. Perhaps she is offering a silent prayer. Perhaps she is simply grateful to have arrived safely. No one asks. Some thoughts remain private, especially here. You begin to notice something curious. No one seems afraid. They are respectful, quiet, patient, but not fearful. Whatever awaits inside the sanctuary, the people approaching its gates seem to believe it offers comfort rather than punishment. That alone makes Eleusis different from many sacred places of the ancient world. Here, hope is stronger than fear. Ahead, priests dressed in long robes welcome the new arrivals. Their movements are calm, unhurried, almost gentle. They speak quietly with each traveler before allowing them to continue. No voices are raised, no dramatic ceremonies unfold before the crowd. The greatest moments here are prepared in silence.
Walking beside Persephone, you cannot help but wonder what she sees. Does she recognize the faces, the prayers, the flowers left beside the path? Or does she see something invisible to everyone else? The endless rhythm that has repeated for generations. People arriving with heavy hearts and leaving lighter than before? Perhaps that is why they kept returning, year after year, century after century. The afternoon sun begins its slow descent. The golden light softens across the rooftops of Eleusis. Long shadows stretch quietly over the stone streets. The voices of the pilgrims grow fewer. Even the birds seem to settle into silence. It feels as though the entire town is gently holding its breath, waiting. Because when darkness finally arrives, the true mysteries will begin. And for the first time, we will step beyond the gates that so few ever dared to describe. The afternoon sun hangs gently above Eleusis. Its warmth is softer now. The bright white walls of the houses no longer shine as they did in the morning. Instead, they glow with quiet shades of gold and honey. Walking beside Persephone, you notice how the town begins to change. Not suddenly, almost too slowly to see. The streets remain peaceful. Children still play between the houses. An old shepherd guides a small flock of sheep toward a nearby field. The sound of a wooden cart echoes softly over the worn stones. Everything appears ordinary. Yet beneath that ordinary rhythm, something invisible is unfolding. Almost everyone you pass seems to know that tonight is different. Nobody says it aloud. They do not need to. Persephone walks without hesitation. Every narrow street, every weathered stone, every ancient olive tree feels familiar to her. To a visitor, Eleusis might seem like a quiet farming town. To Persephone, it is something far deeper. It is the place where memory lives. Not only her own, but the memory of countless generations who believed that life and death were never truly separated. Every season reminded them of her journey. Every harvest welcomed her return. Every winter carried the quiet promise that she would come home once more. The people of Eleusis never saw the seasons as simple changes in the weather. To them, the earth itself was telling Persephone's story. As you continue walking beside her, the fields stretch peacefully beyond the town. Barley moves gently beneath the afternoon breeze. The soft whisper of thousands of stalks blends with the distant sound of waves reaching the nearby shore. The sea has always been close to Eleusis. Its calm waters connected this small sanctuary to islands, ports, and distant cities across the Mediterranean. Many pilgrims arrived by ship. Imagine standing along the shoreline as dozens of small wooden vessels slowly approached the harbor. Some had traveled from nearby villages,
Others had crossed hundreds of miles. They all came for the same reason. Not to admire a beautiful temple, not to trade goods, not to seek political power. They came searching for peace.
Walking beside Persephone, you begin to recognize something unusual. The pilgrims rarely look toward the buildings. Instead, their eyes drift toward the sanctuary itself. Even from a distance, its presence seems to draw them quietly forward. Some carry simple baskets filled with barley. Others hold fresh branches of myrtle. A few wear delicate wreaths woven from olive leaves. Nothing they bring appears expensive. That was never the purpose. The mysteries welcomed people from many different walks of life. A wealthy landowner might stand beside a fisherman, a respected magistrate beside an ordinary farmer. Status faded here. Questions mattered far more than titles. One of the most remarkable things about the mysteries was who could take part. Unlike many religious ceremonies in the ancient world, the gates of Eleusis were not reserved only for kings or priests. Men came, women came, young adults beginning their lives, older people approaching the final chapters of theirs. Even those born far beyond Athens could sometimes be welcomed, provided they respected the sacred traditions. For the ancient world, this was extraordinary. The sanctuary did not ask how wealthy you were. It asked something much simpler. Were you willing to begin the journey? Perhaps that is why the mysteries survived for nearly 2,000 years. Empires rose, empires disappeared, cities flourished, cities crumbled. Yet every autumn, the road to Eleusis filled once again. Generation after generation, parents walked beside their children. Grandparents returned with grandchildren. Friends reunited after years apart. Some had attended the mysteries many times before. Others were taking their first uncertain steps toward the unknown. Walking beside Persephone, you realize that every face carries its own quiet story. Some smile gently. Others remain thoughtful. A few wipe away silent tears before anyone notices. Perhaps they are remembering someone they have lost. Perhaps they hope tonight will ease a sorrow they have carried for years. No one asks. In Eleusis, certain emotions belong only to the person carrying them. As the afternoon slowly fades, small preparations begin throughout the sanctuary. Priests move quietly between the sacred buildings. Assistants arrange woven baskets filled with fresh grain. Clay lamps are carefully inspected. Bundles of dry wood are stacked beside waiting torch poles. Nothing feels hurried. The ceremony has been repeated for centuries. Every movement has its place. Every object has its purpose. Walking beside Persephone, you begin to understand that the mysteries were never simply an event. They were a rhythm, like planting, like harvest, like sunrise. The people preparing the sanctuary are not performing something unusual. They are continuing something ancient, something their parents once prepared and their grandparents before them. Nearby, the scent of fresh bread drifts from a small stone oven. Several women remove warm loaves and place them inside woven linen baskets. Children gather around,
hoping for a small peace before the evening begins. For a moment, the sacred and the ordinary become impossible to separate.
Life continues. Meals are prepared, neighbors greet one another, dogs wander lazily through shaded courtyards. The greatest religious celebration in Greece unfolds not apart from everyday life, but quietly within it. Perhaps that is another lesson Persephone understands better than anyone. The extraordinary often hides inside ordinary moments. Spring begins with a single flower. Harvest begins with a single seed. Hope often begins just as quietly. The breeze becomes cooler. Long shadows stretch across the narrow streets. High above, swallows circle gracefully through the evening sky before disappearing toward their nests. The bright sounds of the afternoon slowly fade. In their place comes another kind of silence. Not empty, expectant. The kind of silence shared by people who know they are standing at the edge of something they will remember forever. Walking beside Persephone, you feel it too. Not excitement, not fear, something gentler, a peaceful anticipation, as though the earth itself is taking one slow breath before night finally arrives. The sanctuary waits, and so do we. The sun now rests low above the western hills. Its golden light stretches across the fields beyond Eleusis, turning every stalk of barley into a ribbon of bronze. Walking beside Persephone, you notice that the pace of the town has changed once again. Not suddenly, almost too slowly to see. The work of the day is quietly coming to an end. Farmers return from the fields carrying simple wooden tools across their shoulders. Potters cover their unfinished jars with damp cloth to protect them until morning. The smell of warm bread slowly gives way to the scent of wood smoke rising from countless hearths. For most towns across Greece, this would simply be another peaceful evening. But not here. Not tonight. Tonight, Eleusis belongs to the mysteries. Small groups of pilgrims begin gathering beneath the olive trees surrounding the sanctuary. Some speak in quiet voices. Others simply sit together, watching the changing sky. Walking beside Persephone, you begin to understand that this waiting is part of the journey itself. The ancient Greeks believed that wisdom could not be rushed. Seeds required time beneath the soil before they became grain. Children required years before becoming adults. Even spring arrived only after the patience of winter. Perhaps the mysteries followed the same rhythm. Before anyone could receive answers, they first had to learn how to wait. Nearby, several attendants carefully fill clay vessels with fresh water. For the people of Eleusis, water was more than something to drink. It marked a beginning. Before entering the sacred ceremonies, many pilgrims took part in acts of purification. Not because they were considered unworthy, but because every meaningful journey deserved a quiet beginning. Imagine washing the dust of many miles from your hands, feeling cool water run across your skin after weeks of walking beneath the Mediterranean sun, each drop carrying away a little more of the outside world, preparing not only the body,
but also the mind.
Persephone watches without speaking. She has seen this countless times before, generation after generation. Faces change, languages shift ever so slightly. Empires rise beyond these hills. Yet the same human hopes continue arriving at her sanctuary. A young mother carrying her sleeping child, an elderly fisherman whose hands still bear the marks of decades spent at sea, a soldier no older than 20, walking more slowly than the others. Each arrives carrying invisible burdens. None of those burdens can be seen, yet somehow they seem understood here. One custom puzzled many visitors from distant lands. For a short time before the sacred rites, participants refrained from certain comforts. Meals became simpler. Conversation became quieter. The mind was gently separated from ordinary routines. Modern life often celebrates constant movement. The Greeks sometimes believed the opposite.
Before discovering something important, one first needed stillness. Walking beside Persephone, that idea suddenly feels surprisingly familiar. The quieter the town becomes, the more clearly you begin to notice everything around you. The rustle of leaves overhead, the distant cry of seabirds drifting inland from the Gulf, the slow crackle of the first evening fires. Silence is never truly silent. As twilight deepens, small baskets begin appearing throughout the sanctuary. Inside them rests simple barley, carefully harvested from the surrounding fields. To most people, it would seem unremarkable, only grain, something ordinary. But to the people of Eleusis, grain carried the entire story of Persephone. Every seed disappeared beneath the earth. For weeks, it seemed lifeless, invisible, lost. Then, almost miraculously, it returned. Green, living, growing toward the light once again. No wonder the Greeks looked at a field of barley and saw hope instead of agriculture. Nature reminded them of Persephone every single year.
Walking slowly across the sanctuary, you notice another detail. There are very few grand displays of wealth. No mountains of gold, no dazzling treasures placed before the temples. The greatest offering here has never been riches. It is attention. People truly observe. They notice the changing light, the wind, the scent of herbs carried through the air. Perhaps that is why so many later struggled to describe the mysteries. Some experiences cannot be carried home in words, only in memory. The first stars now begin appearing above Attica. Not many, just one, then another. Soon the evening sky becomes a quiet tapestry of distant light. Ancient travelers knew these stars well. Without maps, without compasses, they guided journeys across mountains and seas. Tonight, they seem to guide something different. Not a voyage across the Mediterranean, but a journey inward. Walking beside Persephone, you lift your eyes for a moment. She has watched these same constellations for longer than any human life. Every autumn they welcomed her return. Every spring they watched her leave again.
the heavens changed little. It was people who came and went.
A low wooden horn sounds somewhere inside the sanctuary. Not loud enough to startle anyone, only enough to let those waiting know that the hour is drawing near. Conversation fades almost immediately. Pilgrims rise slowly to their feet. Cloaks are gently adjusted. Simple wreaths are placed upon waiting heads. No one rushes toward the entrance. There is no pushing, no impatience. Everyone seems to understand that some doors should never be approached in haste. Ahead, torchbearers quietly take their places along the stone pathway leading toward the sacred buildings. One flame appears, then another. Soon a long ribbon of warm golden light stretches into the gathering darkness. The flickering fire transforms familiar walls into something almost dreamlike. Shadows dance across ancient stone. Columns seem taller, doorways deeper. The sanctuary feels less like a place built by human hands and more like a threshold between two worlds. Walking beside Persephone, you cannot help but wonder if this is exactly how the first pilgrims felt more than 2,000 years ago. Curious, peaceful, and quietly aware that they were standing at the edge of something they would remember for the rest of their lives. The great doors remain closed, for now, but the night of the mysteries has finally begun. For a few long moments, nothing happens. No one steps forward. No one speaks. The great wooden doors remain closed, their dark surface glowing softly beneath the torchlight. Walking beside Persephone, you begin to understand that silence is part of the ceremony itself. In the modern world, we often hurry toward the next experience. The people gathered at Eleusis believed something different. The greatest moments should never be rushed. They should arrive naturally, like dawn after a long night. At last, the doors begin to move, not suddenly, almost silently. Heavy cedar beams swing inward, revealing only darkness beyond. There are no dazzling lights waiting inside, no golden throne, no dramatic display, only shadows. One by one, the pilgrims enter. Each disappears quietly into the great hall. Nobody looks back. Walking beside Persephone, you follow them. The cool evening air slowly gives way to the stillness within the sanctuary. Outside, the voices of the town fade completely. Inside, even your footsteps seem softer. The Great Hall is known as the Telesterion. Unlike many temples across Greece, it was never designed for crowds standing outside. It was built for people gathered within. Generation after generation, its walls witnessed ceremonies that remained hidden from almost everyone else. Even today, archaeologists continue studying its foundations, the stone seats, the carefully planned entrances, the central chamber. Each discovery answers one question while quietly creating another. Some ancient writers hinted at what happened here. None explained it completely. They spoke of sacred objects, of words spoken in darkness, of sudden light, of emotions so powerful
that people left believing they no longer feared death. Imagine hearing such stories without ever being allowed inside. Perhaps that is why the mysteries became famous throughout the ancient world. The less people knew, the more they wished to understand.
Walking beside Persephone, you notice something unexpected. Nobody appears afraid. Faces illuminated by torchlight seem calm. Some close their eyes. Others simply breathe slowly, as though they have carried a heavy burden for many years and are finally ready to set it down. Perhaps the greatest gift offered at Eleusis was never knowledge. Perhaps it was peace. Historians still debate what transformed the initiates so deeply. Was it the stories they heard, the symbols they witnessed, the careful rhythm of the ceremony itself? Or was it something far simpler? The rare experience of sharing silence with thousands of others, all searching for hope? No one can answer with certainty. The secret remained hidden remarkably well. Even now, more than 2,000 years later, it still waits quietly behind history's curtain. Walking beside Persephone, the darkness no longer feels empty. It feels alive, not with danger, but with possibility. The same earth that receives every seed also gives birth to every harvest. The same winter that covers the fields always makes room for spring. Perhaps the people gathered here understood that better than anyone. Death and life, absence and return, loss and hope were never enemies. They were simply different seasons of the same endless journey. Somewhere within the hall, a single light begins to grow. Small at first, barely more than the flame of an oil lamp. Then, slowly, it becomes brighter. Not harsh, not blinding, just enough to gently illuminate the waiting faces around you. No words are needed. Walking beside Persephone, you realize that some truths were never meant to be explained, only experienced. And perhaps that is exactly why people continued walking the sacred way, century after century, believing that somewhere within this quiet sanctuary, they had caught a brief glimpse of hope beyond the darkness. For a long while, no one moves. The final glow of torchlight flickers gently against the ancient stone walls. The great hall remains completely still. Whatever has taken place within the telesterion remains where it has always remained, hidden. Not because history forgot, but because those who experienced it chose not to speak. Walking beside Persephone, you notice something remarkable. The silence outside the sanctuary feels different now. Earlier, it was filled with anticipation. Now, it is filled with peace. One by one, the great wooden doors slowly open once more. No announcement is made. No priest raises his voice. No triumphant music fills the night. The pilgrims simply begin to emerge, quietly, almost reverently. Some walk with their heads lowered.
Others pause beneath the stars before taking another step. No one rushes away. There seems to be no desire to break the silence that still surrounds them. It is as though every person wishes to carry a small part of this night a little farther before returning to the ordinary world.
Walking beside Persephone, you study their faces. Hours ago, many arrived carrying uncertainty. Now, their expressions seem softer, not joyful, not overwhelmed, simply lighter. An elderly woman smiles gently toward the sky before continuing down the path. A father places his hand upon his son's shoulder. Neither speaks. They do not need to. Some moments become smaller when words are added. Perhaps this is one of them. The sanctuary behind you remains illuminated by only a handful of fading torches. Their flames dance quietly in the evening breeze. Soon, they too will disappear into darkness. For thousands of years, this same rhythm repeated itself. The gathering, the waiting, the silence, the return. Generation after generation, people crossed the sacred way carrying questions. Many returned believing they no longer feared what lay beyond the final chapter of life. Exactly how the mysteries accomplished this, we still cannot say. Perhaps no single explanation could ever be enough. Walking beside Persephone, you begin following the pilgrims back toward the road leading to Athens. The town itself has become wonderfully quiet. Windows glow softly behind wooden shutters. The scent of extinguished hearth fires lingers gently in the cool night air. Somewhere nearby, an owl calls from an ancient olive tree. Its quiet voice echoes briefly across the sleeping fields. Nothing disturbs the peace. Even the dogs that wandered the streets earlier now sleep peacefully beside their homes. Eleusis seems content simply to rest. The sacred way looks different beneath the stars. By daylight, it appeared as an ordinary road connecting two places. Tonight, it feels almost timeless. Torchlight stretches across the worn stones in long ribbons of gold. The shadows of olive trees sway gently across the path. Above, the sky unfolds in quiet brilliance. Without the lights of modern cities, thousands of stars reveal themselves. The ancient Greeks knew these constellations well. They navigated by them, farmed beneath them, told stories about them. And perhaps, after leaving Eleusis, they looked upward with different eyes than before. Walking beside Persephone, you cannot help but notice how naturally she belongs to both worlds. The moonlight seems almost to recognize her. She is neither entirely of the earth nor entirely beneath it. She moves between light and shadow, between departure and return, between winter and spring. To the Greeks, this was never a contradiction. It was simply the rhythm of life itself. Everything leaves, everything returns. Seeds disappear beneath the soil, then rise again. The sun sinks below the horizon, then greets another morning. Even sorrow, they believed, could someday bloom into hope. As the pilgrims continue their slow journey, small conversations begin to return. not about the ceremony. Never about the ceremony. Instead, they speak of families waiting at home, of fields soon ready for harvest, of the long walk back to distant villages. Life quietly resumes. Yet something has changed, not around them, within them. Perhaps that was always the greatest miracle of Eleusis. It did not promise to change the world. It invited people to see the world differently. History rarely allows us to witness moments like these. Battles are recorded, kings leave inscriptions, generals build monuments. But ordinary people, walking home beneath the stars, rarely appear in history books. And yet, these pilgrims carried something that outlived many empires, a quiet certainty. For nearly 2,000 years, generation after generation continued making this same journey. The Roman statesman Cicero later wrote that Athens had given humanity many beautiful gifts, but among them, the mysteries of Eleusis stood above almost all the rest. He believed they taught people not only how to live, but how to die with hope. It is an extraordinary thought, not because we know exactly what happened inside the sanctuary, but because we know the effect it left upon those who walked back along this very road. Walking beside Persephone, you slow your pace for one final look behind you. Far across the dark fields, the sanctuary has almost disappeared. Only a few distant lights still flicker against the horizon. Soon, even they fade into the night. The road ahead grows quiet once again. Only the soft sound of footsteps remains. The same gentle rhythm, repeated by countless travelers for centuries beyond counting. And somewhere above, the stars continue their silent journey across the heavens, just as they did on every night Persephone found her way home. The road grows quieter with every step. Before long, the last glow of the sanctuary disappears behind the gentle hills. Only the moon remains above the sacred way. Its pale silver light rests softly upon the olive trees, the fields, and the ancient stones that have guided travelers for countless generations. Walking beside Persephone, you realize that this journey was never truly about reaching Eleusis, nor was it about uncovering a secret that history chose to keep. It was about the road itself, the quiet moments between questions and answers, the patient rhythm of walking, the changing light upon the hills, the gentle reminder that some truths reveal themselves slowly, just as spring never arrives all at once. The pilgrims continue toward their homes. Some return to Athens. Others will travel for many more days before reaching distant villages across Greece. Tomorrow, they will once again become farmers, craftsmen, sailors, teachers, parents, neighbors. Life will continue much as it always has. The wheat will still need harvesting. Fishing boats will leave before sunrise. Markets will fill with familiar voices. Children will chase one another through dusty streets. At first glance, nothing will seem different. Yet somewhere inside, each traveler carries a quiet memory that belongs only to them. A memory that asks for no explanation.
only remembrance.
Walking beside Persephone, you pause once more to look across the peaceful countryside. A cool breeze carries the scent of wild thyme through the night air. Somewhere beyond the hills, waves from the Gulf of Eleusis continue their endless conversation with the shore. Above, the stars remain exactly where they have always been. They watch the first pilgrims arrive. They watch the Roman emperors make the same journey. They watched centuries pass without ever growing older. Human lives rise and fade like seasons. The sky simply waits. Time, as it always does, continues moving forward. The centuries pass quietly across the land. New rulers arrive, old kingdoms disappear. The Roman Empire embraces the mysteries and protects them for generations. Many emperors walk these very paths with the same curiosity as ordinary pilgrims. The sanctuary continues welcoming those who seek hope, year after year, century after century. But no earthly place remains unchanged forever. By the 4th century, the ancient world is beginning to change. Christianity spreads throughout the empire. The old temples slowly fall silent. In the year 392, Emperor Theodosius I forbids the traditional pagan ceremonies that had shaped Greek life for hundreds of years. Not long afterward, the sacred gatherings at Eleusis come to an end. The torches are extinguished, the processions cease. The voices of the pilgrims slowly disappear into history. A few years later, invading Goths damage much of the sanctuary. Buildings that had witnessed nearly 2,000 years of quiet devotion begin their own slow journey toward ruin. The mysteries, at last, become truly silent. And yet, not everything was lost. The stories remained. The names remained. Demeter, Persephone, Eleusis, the sacred way. Even today, archaeologists continue uncovering pieces of the sanctuary. Historians continue reading ancient texts. Travelers continue walking among the weathered stones, wondering what countless generations once experienced there. Some questions still have no answers. Perhaps they never will. But maybe that is exactly as the ancient initiates intended. Some mysteries are not diminished by remaining mysteries. Sometimes they become even more beautiful. Walking beside Persephone for the final time, you take one last look toward the quiet hills. Spring will always return. Fields will always bloom again. Seeds will always disappear beneath the earth before rising once more toward the sunlight. That ancient rhythm continues, whether anyone is watching or not. Perhaps that is why Persephone's story has endured for thousands of years. Not because it explains everything, but because it gently reminds us that every ending carries within it the promise of another beginning. Slowly, the moonlight begins to fade. The olive trees grow softer. The distant hills disappear into darkness. The ancient road gently slips away. And, little by little,
another familiar light begins to appear. A warm green glow, a single reading lamp waiting patiently upon an old wooden table. The shelves return, the quiet library surrounds us once again. Outside, the rain is still falling softly against the windows, exactly as it was when we first opened tonight's book. The fire crackles gently nearby. The room is peaceful, still, waiting. The pages rest quietly beneath your hands.
Our journey through ancient Greece has come to its gentle end. Thank you for walking beside Persephone tonight, and for following one of the oldest roads in human history. Perhaps, like the pilgrims who once left Eleusis beneath the stars, you too leave carrying a little more peace than when you first arrived. Now, there is nowhere else you need to be. Nothing left to finish. Nothing left to solve. Only the quiet sound of rain, the warmth of the library, and the comforting knowledge that these ancient stories will always be waiting whenever you wish to return. Until our next journey, good night. Sleep well, and may your dreams be as peaceful as the quiet fields of Eleusis beneath the first light of spring.